lecture for week 2 of the immunohematology course. This week we will be covering ABO and H blood group systems and secretor status. While we are covering only one chapter this week, you will see that this chapter covers a lot of information, and it's also probably one of the most important chapters that you will cover because it provides you with an understanding of the inheritance of blood group systems and antigen expression and the testing that we do to detect those antigens. So make sure that you have a good understanding of the inheritance and development of the ABH antigens and refer back to chapter 3 in order to help you understand the genetic principles behind these inheritance patterns. This week also notes the point where we're going to split off and talk about the different kinds of antigens, and this is where you have to refer back to your immunology training. We're going to be talking about carbohydrate antigens, and specifically we're going to focus on the top box here. The H antigen will cover the rest of the antigens in subsequent weeks, but they're all carbohydrate related antigens, and then we will also later cover protein structure antigens. Again, because there's a lot of information in this chapter, I'm going to try to provide you with a little bit of guidance on what you need to focus on. One thing, you are going to have to memorize those terminal sugars of the H, A, and B antigens so that if you are shown a picture, you'll recognize and go, oh, that's A antigen, or oh, that's H antigen, and H antigen confers the O blood group system. So make sure that you understand those. ABO subgroups is kind of a confusing topic. The chapter does a good job in covering them. ABO subgroups are best understood by understanding how you work up discrepancies. We'll talk about that in a little bit. While there are A subgroups and B subgroups, you will most likely encounter an A subgroup in a clinical situation. And then you also need to understand the ABO blood group system antibodies that we create as a result of being the blood type that we are. For example, I'm type B, so how does this affect me, and how does this affect subsequent transfusions that you would give me because I am type B? This slide shows the summary of how you would resolve a problem such as an ABO discrepancy. You have an entire lecture devoted to this with lots of case studies included. There's also a lot of case studies included in the chapter that's assigned for you to read this week. So make sure you look over that, and if you have any questions, make sure to ask. The last couple slides here, I'm just going to point out a couple of things that you need to know for knowledge purposes. It's very unlikely that you will ever see a Bombay phenotype in a clinical situation, but you do have to have an understanding of how a Bombay phenotype shows up because it helps you understand the genetics behind the ABO blood group system. And finally, you do have to have an understanding of how the H and secretor genes interact. It's very unlikely that you will ever do secretor testing, but again, because it speaks to the genetics of the blood group systems and your understanding of how things are inherited, you do have to have an understanding of how the H genes and the secretor genes interact. We will also revisit this later on when we cover the Lewis blood group system. And that's the end of your 1-minute lecture for week 2 of the immunohematology course. Have fun. This is a good chapter, and you will learn lots this week. And I look forward to the discussions. Thanks. See you later.